So I have some images I want to start with. This first one is one of our very earliest images by a Latter-day Saint artist related to the Restoration. This is C.C.A. Christensen. He was a Danish convert. He came over as a handcart pioneer to Utah in 1857, and he'd had some art training in Europe. And so he used that training to make some of the very first Latter-day Saint scenes of scripture and history. This is part of a scroll or a panorama of 11 scenes, and this is the final scene done in the early 1870s. And it shows Moroni giving the plates to Joseph Smith at the Hill Cumorah. I think there's a real emphasis here on this moment of divine encounter. Our eye visually is led to this figure of Moroni. He's the tallest figure. He's dressed all in white, so he's the brightest element of the scene. And he has this sort of radiating halo of light behind him. So we really focus on this divine messenger. This comes from, or I think the moment the C.C.A. Christensen is depicting is from Joseph Smith History, verse 59, where he wrote, at length the time arrived for obtaining the plates, the Urim and Thummim, and the breastplate, having gone as usual at the end of another year to the place where they were deposited. The same heavenly messenger delivered them up to me. There are quite a few images like this, of this depicting this scripture, some more recently. So from our earliest art until just recently, this is a moment that's been depicted many times. And I want to compare that with another piece by Clark Kelly Price that was done more recently. This is a slightly earlier moment in the Joseph Smith history. This is not where he gets the plates, but where he sees them for the first time. And I think compared with the other one, well, first of all, Joseph is alone here. There's no heavenly messenger here. This is when he first goes and sees them. And I think that, and the way he's just sort of paused, right after he's heaved this heavy stone lid off the box, and he's having his first glimpse of these artifacts, just sort of taking a moment there. Even the title, There Indeed, I think speaks to this mood of, it's really true. Like these things really exist, and this was a true messenger. And I think that's a really powerful moment that's captured visually here. But compared with the other one, the earlier one that focused on the divine messenger, this one is really brought down to earth. Like Joseph is kneeling in the dirt. His hands and his pants are actually covered in dirt. You see his knife on the ground there that he's used to loosen up the dirt to get into this box. And his sleeves are rolled up from the effort that he's put into it. It might be hard to see, but there's actually sweat glistening on his arm, and there's beads of sweat dripping down his brow. He's really worked hard here. So there's this emphasis on embodiment, and that this is a real person, and this is a moment that happened in a particular place and time. This was a historical reality. I do have to mention the hat. I don't know if the artist intended this, but I love that he included Joseph's hat discarded there, and maybe he just took it off as he was working, but I have to think it's in the foreground and it's upside down, and I think this probably has reference to Joseph's role as a seer and the fact that he'll use this hat or a similar hat as he later translates these sacred plates. The scripture, as I mentioned, is just slightly earlier from verse 52 of Joseph Smith History, and Joseph wrote, "Having removed the earth, I obtained a lever, which I got fixed under the edge of the stone, and with a little exertion raised it up. I looked in, and there indeed did I behold the plates, the Urim and Thummim, and the breastplate as stated by the messenger." So I think the artist is really paying attention to the text here. He's including these elements that Joseph Smith described. Interestingly, this is one of the only portrayals of this scripture. There aren't many visual depictions of this moment. So these are the kinds of questions that I'm interested in as an art historian. How are Latter-day Saints engaging with their scripture and their history in visual ways? And what are the scriptures that are visualized frequently? What are the scriptures or history moments that aren't visualized as often, and why not? And could there be alternative ways to visualize the same moment or scripture? So that's why for the past few years, with the help of the Maxwell Institute and the Willis Center, I've been building the Book of Mormon art catalog. This was a project to try to gather all Book of Mormon related art, right? Any art based on content in the Book of Mormon, from the earliest until today and from all over the world. This is a screenshot of our homepage, and we just, in November, added a new section for Doctrine and Covenants art, church history, and Pearl of Great Price. So now when you go to the website, you can go into the Book of Mormon side or the Restoration, History, and Scripture side. And I have to acknowledge Lauren Platt, who's one of our wonderful research assistants, who has helped build this new section with me. So thank you, Lauren. In the Restoration History section, you still have the same advanced search features and the browsing categories as you do on Book of Mormon site. It's just now particular to these artworks. So the 6 browsing categories, you have an alphabetical list of all the artists, a chronological list of the years, if you want to see what was done each year. Scripture reference. Maybe you're a seminary teacher and you're teaching a lesson on D&C 76. You can go to that link on our list of scripture references and it'll pull up all the artwork related to D&C 76. Place is the country of origin of the artist or the artwork. And then topic, this is a list that we created to help users in case they don't know the exact scripture reference or it's a more broad concept. For example, restoration of the Melchizedek priesthood is one of the topics we have here. And then style and technique, things like, maybe you just want to see all the stained glass pieces or what's being done with abstract art. I do want to mention we just hit a milestone last week. We just surpassed 10,000, and we actually have over 11,000 artwork entries in the catalog now. It is the largest public database of Latter-day Saint art anywhere, and it's free, thanks to BYU for supporting it. So in my last couple minutes here, I just want to run you through a couple of fun comparisons. Now that we've gathered all this art together, you can quickly find things that weren't accessible before, and you can compare them at a glance. So I love this comparison. C.C.A. Christensen, again, one of our earliest artists, showing priesthood, John the Baptist ordaining Joseph Smith and Oliver Cowdery. And then Emil Wilson, who, more recently, who's a member and an artist in Sierra Leone, showing that same priesthood being used in his country to bless people in his ward there. And I love how this speaks to the way the restoration is rolling forth around the world. Lots of images of Joseph Smith in the catalog. Here's a wood carving by an artist in Poland of the First Vision. Ken Corbett did this painting. He calls General Joseph Smith of the Nauvoo Legion. This is a great example of a piece that you're only going to find in the catalog. The artist sent it to us to include, but it's not accessible anywhere else. And there are quite a few like that in our catalog. We're including images of temples. I love this early Nauvoo temple sampler from a young woman in the 1840s, done with cross stitch. And then more recently, a member in Ukraine who depicted the Kiev temple with some cutout paper designs. Since we're including Pearl of Great Price, we have images related to the Book of Moses, artwork from the Book of Abraham, and images of the creation and Adam and Eve. And then finally, this is just an example. I went to our scripture reference list, clicked on D&C 76, and these are 2 of the pictures that are artworks that we have listed there. Lesna Mingha is a Hopi Zuni artist, and he is a member of the church, and he's incorporated these traditional styles and techniques and combined it with Doctrine and Covenants to create this really remarkable depiction of the 3 degrees of glory. And then Rose Day Takdal, Filipina-American artist, who made this really beautiful visualization of a young woman who was an actual young woman named Morning who was enslaved. And this is imagining her as she returns to the spirit world and is joyfully greeted by family and friends there. Okay, here is the QR code. If you want to go ahead and take out your phone, please do. And grab the website and bookmark it. Please share it with friends. Let people know about this resource. We do have some flyers, I think. with a QR code on them. So take a flyer, give it to a friend, maybe post it on your ward meeting house bulletin board if you can. Just let people know about this great free resource. And let me just close. I just want to say how much I love doing this project and how studying this art has helped me engage with the scriptures in exciting new ways. And I was just, since we're talking about these wonderful books, I was just reading Phil Barlow's excellent book on time. And just thinking about variety in art, I have to read a quick quote from Dr. Barlow. So first he quotes from the Gospel Topics essay on Revelation. And that says, God's willingness to deliver revelation that speaks to us within our cultures and according to our understanding is a beautiful truth of the restoration. And then Dr. Barlow goes on to say, if we fail to allow for the diversity of divine expression and its accommodation to human capacities and contexts, we may confuse the living God with our personal, imperfect conceptions of him. And I think that really applies to the art. When we have a greater variety of art, and especially art from other cultures and other perspectives, are done in different styles, then we can start to see new perspectives. We can have new insights. And I think even sometimes be brought to a place of revelation. That has definitely been my experience with this project, and I hope it will be for you too. Thank you so much.